Guys, I will not lie to you. I have been struggling. I'm still struggling to get this thing out of my head. What's that thing you might ask? It is Bruno Dogo. Bruno Dogo. Dogo. That is still ringing in my head. That was the moment I knew that this is going to absolute bonkers. We came into that game with the expectation of not just winning, but winning comfortably because we're at home, one. And two, we're facing a Man United side that, though they're on a resurgence, you know, they're still up for the taking. This is the sixth team coming up against a team that's number one in the league. And we didn't do ourselves any favors with the pressure that we put on ourselves, even from the manager to the players and to the fans. Let's be honest, the response in the stadium was not the best when we actually went a goal down. And can you blame anyone? Not really. It's a natural response of angst and pressure from the crowd. I know the players were expecting the fans to be behind them, which I would say the fans did for a major part of the game in the first half. But when we started seeing the sloppiness after we even scored a goal, obviously that would send some shivers down the spine of the fans and even some of the players, because that error from Zubimendi definitely shook the team. And dare I say, even before that error, we're seeing certain things that were uncharacteristical of our team. Now, are there positives to take from that game? I'm finding it difficult to pick the positives, but I'll try. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm doing this video today. Long form content. I usually post a lot of shorts because that's like fast and off the cuff for me. But this time around, I'm here to have a conversation, and I hope that you're here listening. If you made it this far, thank you. Subscribe, click the notification button whenever I release content, you get notified, and comment also. But I'm going to go into what I feel are the few positives we can pick from that game. Yes, not many, to be honest, not many. But the very few that I'll pick, I would say, are quite profound at this stage of the season. Taking into consideration that we have 15 more games ahead of us, anything can happen. We could go forward and move on like nothing really happened if we're winning all our games, or we could go into a downward spiral, considering the fact that the next run of games are still going to test us. The next game we have at Ellen Road against Leeds is going to be a big test. But I think this is a necessary wake up call to understand that we are in contention for this league, not alone, but with others. Man City is still in it. Aston Villa are the dark horses. But we have to keep our head in the game. There's so many commentary about, oh, Arsenal should win a quadruple. Arsenal has to win something this year, which is fair because we've come a long way getting close to it and never really getting over the line. But at this point, we need to put all that behind us and focus on what we really can do. As a team, I think the team is capable. They have the quality. Why the pressure is getting to them is basically an exposure of how mentally frail these boys are. And Ateta needs to step in with his team. Now, the positive, number one, is that this is a wake-up call. A wake-up call that we will know for a fact that Ateta will respond to. We have to give him the credit he deserves. As far as where we've come from to where we are right now, Ateta deserves that credit. So Ateta has credit in the bank. Any fan coming here to say Ateta out, please, you have to pause that point of view until the end of the season. Because right now, all we can do is really support our manager and support the team towards the goal, which is to win a trophy. But that being said, Ateta has job on his hand to do. Job in terms of his ruthlessness. We can see how ruthless he is in other positions on the pitch, but when it comes to certain players, he is not as ruthless as he claims to be, or we perceive him to be. I mean, going as far back as to even, his situation with Raya and Ramsdale, fine margins. It's a game of fine margins, and he's looking for, that fine margin. And definitely, we saw that Raya is a step above where we were in terms of Ramsdale, and Ramsdale was not a bad keeper, just so you know. He is definitely not a bad keeper at all. But we needed that little edge to improve because he felt he won't take us to the destination. I would ask that same question of certain players like our captain. Now we've had two games in the Premier League in a row where our captain was hooked off before the 60th minute. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. And that's where I'm looking for the ruthlessness from Arteta in the next games coming up. Like, if you have players that are not performing on the level that you expect from them, are you ruthless enough to pull them off and bring in the players that can deliver? Yesterday, his judgment on bringing on Madueke as opposed to Martinelli was confusing for me. Like, why would you take Saka to the left, leave Madueke on the right, and Martinelli on the bench? Martinelli that actually had one of the best runs of games in the Champions League, and also that performance in the Champions League, even though he came on as a sub, was fantastic. Why wouldn't you encourage that and have him in the team? Trossard was not up to par, and Martinelli was on the bench. Now Trossard was hooked off, and you put Saka on the left, which we haven't done in the longest. So you can see that those decision making that he is fond of is not as ruthless as he claims to be, and that's one of the big questions I have for him. But yeah, I'm going off, into some of these negatives, but I would like to stay on the positive. The positive basically now is that we can move further into the season with the resolve to win every game as it comes. The next run of games we have are not as difficult, but they are going to be demanding of a better mental state. And I think the mental state is what we've seen from the boys in periods where they faltered before now in previous seasons. They've shown us this season that they could do better in those periods where they've actually drawn games last season. They've won those games this season. And now we are meeting a point where we haven't really come up against such a challenge. And I feel the players need to dig deep, and they can dig deep for a resolve to do better. Now, I don't want to stay on that Manchester United game. It's a freak of a game because those two worldies from Dogo and Cunha, you don't get those every game. But I think we can learn from that. One major lesson we can take away from that is that we cannot be playing with excessive caution. If you watch the replay of Zubimendi's error, he basically responded out of fear for losing the ball, and trying to pass it back to safety was actually what cost us at that point. Because if he had looked up, he had a pass right ahead of him. And because also we are not in the habit of finding the pass ahead of us, he sent the pass backward. But I know that Zubimendi has quality. I know Saka's quality is undeniable. I know we have quality everywhere and around the team, but we need to keep our heads. We need to stay together. We need to not let the voices from haters of this club get into our minds. And that goes to the coach, to the players as well. You're capable. You need to stay on track and do the business. Arteta is intelligent enough to identify where he needs to improve from the mistakes in the Liverpool game, from the errors of the Nottingham Forest games, for the lack of creation of chances. He knows where these errors are. And I'm looking forward to a situation where Arteta will make decisions moving us forward in the next game against Leeds. As far as I'm concerned, the last time we had a fantastic performance in the Premier League was against Aston Villa. And if you look at our starting lineup, we had Odegaard. Odegaard had a fantastic game. But the people behind him were Zubimendi and Merino. Now, I'm not calling for Declan Rice to be hooked up. Obviously, we know he has the quality. But that's to tell you that even if we mix things up in the midfield, we are still able to deliver a result. Look at the game against Inter Milan. Odegaard did not even play that game. We had a midfield. Merino, Eze, and Zubimendi. We had Declan, Eze, and Zubimendi. Even in the Portsmouth game, we had a rotation in the midfield. We need to do something different as far as playing forward is concerned, as far as creating chances is concerned. And I know that these boys are capable. We just have to hang in there. Boys, we are 4 points ahead. I know that's slim. I know that's not supposed to be the case if we are taking all the opportunities we had. But that's the situation right now. And how we respond to it is what's most important. Ateta needs to get back on his feet. The boys need to get back on their feet. Zubimendi needs to get back on his feet, mentally speaking, because this was a mental hit on the whole squad. But we're going to be looking forward to how they step up in the game against Leeds. I'm not going to do player ratings because everybody knows that nobody really had a great game. Nobody. But we also know what we're capable of. And we want to take this as one of those bad days in the office. But we're having one too many right now. In the 3 games on the bounce, not having a win, that feels like a slump. But there is no team that's not capable of having slumps. Even on a title challenge, it's possible. But I am hopeful that we would finish this season off with a trophy. We have a game against Chelsea on the 3rd of February. That's also another opportunity for the team to bounce back. It's going to be a big test because Chelsea are going to come ready because the margin is slim. Just 1 goal advantage. We need to do the job. Guys, this is just me coming to have a positive outlook on things and to encourage you because a lot of the people I see, content creators, Arsenal fans creating stuff, are basically sounding very miserable and angry, which rightly so, they deserve to feel that way. But we can't stay stuck feeling that way. We have to find a way to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves, and move forward. Guys, this is our season. We are not going to bottle it. This is the affirmation I feel every player should be saying to themselves because right now it's a mental battle. It's a mental war. We need to find a way through it. And that's just my own tidbit of yapping and encouraging those who care to listen. Come on, the Arsenal. Let's keep going. We can do this.